Hello, and welcome. Now, today I'm going to be talking about how to know when to walk away from opportunities, okay? But before I get into all of that, just in case you're unfamiliar with me, perhaps we haven't met before, let me just quickly introduce myself. So, my name is Nina Dafe, and I am the founder and the editor of the FarAboveRubiesCollection.com, where I help heart-centered, visionary Christian women to banish the blocks which are keeping them from crushing their business goals once and for all. And if you have been rocking with me for a while, then you know that last week I talked about 2 reasons why knowing that God is your oath will basically help you on the road to success. So we talked about setbacks, and we also talked about when you basically have been networking your face off, building profitable relationships, you've been visible in your vision, and as Proverbs 18, I believe verse 16 says, your gift makes room for you and brings you before great people, right? You got to know that God is your oath and not get all scared and intimidated and, give in to imposter syndrome. If you haven't watched that video, I do suggest going back and watching it now, because I would really say that today's video is kind of like a part 2 or continuation of that conversation. So the whole God is your oath thing, it comes from Ephesians 6:23, where we find out that Moses' sister-in-law's name, Elisheba, means God is my oath, right? And once again, if you've been rocking with me for a while, you know I've been in the book of Exodus, where it does a lot of talking about Moses and how through, God used him to set the people of Israel free, right? And it's really interesting because if you fast forward to Hebrews 11 verses 24 onwards, it talks about the fact that in order to become, that Moses, that person who we celebrate today for setting the Israelites free, it came at a price and it came at a cost. Like, Moses was actually a prince of Egypt. He was adopted by the Pharaoh's daughter. And so in order to do that, Hebrews 11:24, in those verses, it talks about the fact that he had to forsake or give up the pleasures of Egypt in order to do it, right? So if we relate that to us and how we should know when to walk away from certain opportunities, right? I think what it really comes down to is letting our purpose be our guide, but not just our purpose, actually going higher than that, right? And thinking about God. The person who gives us our purpose, who actually gives us the very desires of our heart, is God. And so ultimately, kind of like if we look at the parable of the talents in Matthew 25, God actually expects a return on the gifts and the talents and the dreams that he endowed us with. The whole parable of the talents is actually about being a good steward and making sure that when we live our life, and that when we go about our daily business and pursuing success and pursuing our dreams, knowing that we're not just doing that to make a name for ourselves and to make our name great, but actually as an ambassador for God, especially if you are a woman of faith, right? That when you are successful, it's actually your opportunity to point upwards. And so first and foremost, you know that you need to walk away from a certain opportunity when it doesn't allow you to do that, when it actually comes against or clashes with your core values as a woman of God. It's time to say, no, that's not for me, just like Moses did, okay? I think the second one I've already alluded to, which is letting your purpose be your guide. It would have been easy, I guess, for Moses to continue to bury his head in the sand, live in the palace, live his life of luxury, etc., etc. But he chose not to. His purpose at the end of the day won out, right? And it has to be the same with us. Moses' dream, Moses' vision put him at odds with his actual family, you know, his adopted family and the people that he had grown up with. And unfortunately, that's also what's going to happen with us if it hasn't already happened. I know it's happened with me, you know, during my faith walk and during my journey with the Far Above Rubies collection. And in those moments, although it could be easy to try to appease people and be a people pleaser and, you know, try and keep things the same as they have always been, as I said, you have to let your purpose be your guide, right? You need to know that God is your oath, and even though it's hard, even though it's difficult, even though you know, it's coming at sacrifice, that it's all going to be worth it. Because at the end of the day, however many thousands of years later, we're still talking about Moses. We're still drawing inspiration from him and Elisha Burr and, you know, the whole story of the children of Israel and all of those sorts of things. And so I think I really felt moved to say, yes, you know, we're praying. Yes, we go before God and we believe in him. Yes, you know, we're building profitable relationships. We're being visible in our vision and all of those sorts of things. And yes, our gifts ultimately do make room for us and bring us before great people. But we also need to know, and this was something that I experienced this week, that not all opportunities are a good opportunity. And just because someone is high profile, just because someone does seem to be offering you what it is that you prayed for, etc., etc., that we, just like Moses, still need to be discerning. We still actually need to take God's advice and his leading, you know, that at the end of the day, if we're going to call him Lord and sovereign, we need to actually stick with that in our decision making, even at times where it seems crazy to turn it down or to walk away, knowing that because he is our oath and the word says that he is also the word, that when he says things like he's still going to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask, you know, when it says things like he is going to elevate us and he is going to basically, you know, give us the provision for our vision, that even when the circumstances don't look like it and we feel that inner nudging that this isn't quite right, I need to walk away, that his word is still true, that your life is not ruined, that you're not a failure, that you're not crazy, you're just being submitted. Because once again, as the word says, obedience is better than sacrifice. It is better to listen to his direction and listen to his word and his leading than to follow down what is ultimately your own path and then having to backtrack and undo all of that. Does that make sense? So I think this was a bit more of I guess, a caution than last week was, that yes, networking and building profitable relationships will ultimately help us to level up and achieve our goals and dreams. But it's also really, really, really important who we align ourselves with, what causes, and it's important that ultimately God gets the glory. Moses could have continued to align himself with Pharaoh and his family, but he didn't. He chose to align himself with God and the children of Israel. And so we need to do the same thing, right? In our decision making, we need to choose this day who it is we are going to serve. All right. So I hope all of that makes sense. I hope that helps you if you're kind of currently at a point where you are making decisions. And if you enjoyed this video, then do feel free to like, to share with those who you know also need to hear this message. And if you're watching on YouTube, then definitely press the subscribe button and hit the bell notification. And wherever you're watching, let me know in the comments what your aha moment was, or if you have any questions. I will definitely circle back and I will answer. Okay, so on that note, guys, I'm off to enjoy the rest of my weekend. I hope you enjoy yours. Take care until next week. Bye.